Okay, any questions? Comments? Okay. Now I'm going to contradict myself. One of the odd things about being in a physical form is just how complicated it is. If you think about when you did learn to walk, it took quite a bit of effort to get to the point where you could tell X, I want to walk, and walking happened. Isn't that about right? You don't just wake up one morning and say to X, I want to walk, and get up and do it. So even in the job of the awareness, there are certain aspects of it that are kind of complex. Being able to report what you really want to do. And most of us, it takes us a few weeks or so to get the hang of that, doesn't it? First we tell X, I want to walk like those other people, and it doesn't quite work out too good. You sort of stumble along and then end up on your butt. And you keep at it, and pretty soon you figure out a way to tell X you want to walk, and then you sort of do it for the rest of your life. Isn't that about right? So even in this little thing of X knows how to walk, I don't think anybody really has to teach a kid particularly how to walk, do they? They kind of see it done and somehow manage to imitate it. But it does take us a bit of time and effort sometimes to get the hang of reporting the particular thing that I want to do, doesn't it? And sometimes a heck of a lot of practice to get to the point where you can really do it. Okay? I don't suppose many folks can remember that, but that is basically what happens when a kid learns to walk. They see everybody else doing it, and it kind of ticks them off after a while that they don't seem to be doing that. And that's really what happens is they say, I want to do that. But I really don't even know what it is yet. And they sit and practice all sorts of ways of saying I want to walk until X finally gets what they really mean. We see it all on the physical level and don't see that part of the game going on. And then once you sort of get the hang of it, we develop this little thing called personality that remembers it for you. Because the awareness, I've noticed, isn't real good at remembering things. It doesn't do that too good. The only place it ever lives is now. Right here. And the idea of carrying around memories just doesn't seem too important to it. So we have this little helper built into the body called a memory that says, I did finally figure out how to do that once upon a time, and every time I want to walk, something in the body jumps up and says, this is the way that you report that you want to walk. And the awareness sort of says, thank you very much, I had forgotten. And off the thing goes to X, and you're walking. Now, that's all so fast and so effortless to us that we don't even see that process. But it is there. I've decided I want to be somewhere else. Walking sounds like a good way to do it. The memory jumps up and says, this is the way that you did it the last few times. The awareness does it that way, and X walks. Kind of a complicated little process, okay? But without that memory, we would have to learn to walk every morning. Because we'd have forgotten overnight. Go to sleep, let the body rest, wake up in the morning, want to get out of bed, and wouldn't remember how to tell X, I want to get out of bed. And have to learn it all over again, which would sort of make life on planet Earth about impossible, wouldn't it? If every day you had to relearn everything that you knew yesterday. So X gave us a little helper called memory, which we have sort of abused over the years and turned it into a terrible tyrant instead of a helper. It does help us too. And that is what around here we call the personality, okay? That's its job. To be a memory about all the things that you've learned to do on planet Earth. And you can kind of see why it's just built into the body, can't you? Because what's that good's that going to do you when you ain't here no more? How'd you like to have to carry that with you wherever you go next? All the stuff about how to do things in a place you ain't in anymore. Wouldn't that be annoying? Rest of eternity, or however long it is, know all these things about how to cook food where there's no food, and how to fix cars where there's no cars. You see? It'd be kind of goofy, wouldn't it? So that stuff all is in the body, and when the body's gone, it's gone. All you're left with is whatever has been experienced by the awareness itself and how it's been changed by the experience of being here on planet Earth, you see. Part of the purpose of coming here is that being here changes the awareness. You know that? It changes you to be here. You will not come out of this experience the same way you came in. It just ain't going to happen. This is set up in such a way that it has an effect on the awareness itself. Sad thing is that for most of us, the effect is that it destroys us. Anything that could change me also has the ability to destroy me, doesn't it? Isn't that about right? If it can affect me, then it can destroy me just as easily as it can change me in some other way. Isn't that about the way it works? And getting lost in all these sensations and forgetting what the purpose of it is and using it intelligently to get the effect that it was designed to have just means that it sort of wears you down, kind of does you in. Okay. But at any rate, the personality is all those memories about dealing with the physical form, so that I don't have to do that. Remember every morning how to get out of bed and how to walk. That part of it's pretty useful, isn't it? I don't think I'd want to do without that. Plus, as long as you're here, you got to be wearing some kind of mask, don't you? I don't know how to just stand here naked to the world as an awareness, okay? I got to act it out somehow because you can't see me. So if I want you to know anything about me at all, the only way I can get that done is to act it out. Isn't that right? To dramatize it for you. Because you can't see what I'm thinking. You can't see what's going on with me. You see, I got to act it out for you. I want you to know anything at all. And the personality helps with that. That's really, in a way, what the personality is, isn't it? Is the role that you play in the world that basically sits there and advertises you, isn't it? It says, here I am. This is me. This is the kind of person that I am. As I said in our last little section, X loves to play roles. I mean, that's really clear, isn't it? Everywhere you look, X is playing some little role, right? X is playing the role of plant. X is playing all these different roles. He just gets a kick out of it, apparently. I don't know why. It's just obvious, isn't it? Little buggies crawling everywhere. There goes X playing the role of buggy. Everywhere you look, he's doing something, isn't it? He's just got this kick about wanting to play roles. And as his little child, we sort of have the same thing going, don't we? We're all sort of natural-born hams, aren't we? I know I am. I kind of like playing these parts out here, huh? And that's the only way that I can be known, isn't it? But the sad thing is that for most of us, we're stuck in a part, aren't we? We didn't pick it. It sort of was cast for us. Somebody else picked the part and said, here, you play this. And we're kind of stuck in it. And I meet a lot of people who really don't like the part they're playing too much. They wish they could play some other part in life. And they don't seem to be able to get out of the one that they're stuck in. Why do you suppose it is that we don't like the role that we're stuck in, a lot of us? Could it be that it does not express you? You ever had that feeling? This part that I'm playing really doesn't show me. It shows somebody else. I'm not sure who it is, but it ain't me. You ever had that feeling? Look at the little parts that you play, the things you act out in the world, and you say, I'm not advertising me, I'm advertising Joe down the street. I never met. I don't know who I'm playing, but it ain't me. I don't want to do this. I want to do something else, but I can't. That's personality. That thing that acts out some role in life. And I bet most of us are not even really sure what that role is. We just know that certain aspects of it ain't me. That's not what I would have chosen if somebody said, what part would you like to play, Phil? You ever had that feeling? Is that just me that feels that way? Okay. And that is exactly the way it works. We all get cast into a role. And the personality tells us how to report everything to X to get things done. And so it always comes through with that mark of individuality that should have been from me, but really belongs to the personality. And I'll tell you, the role that everybody gets cast into can be described by a very simple word. It has many, many different ways that part gets played out, just like, you can take the same play and put different actors in it, and they'll all play the different roles in that play a little bit different, isn't that right? They all give it their own little mark, perhaps. But the role is still the same, right? It's Mary Jo and Joe and whatever the play is. And that's about the way that the roles that human beings play. They're all playing the same role. You know what that role is? Victim. Everybody I know is playing the role of victim. They all do it in their own little odd ways and endearing ways and so on. But it's the same role everywhere I look. So everybody apparently has decided that this is a great tragedy with them as the starring actor in a Okay. Now, to be honest with you, if somebody put out a whole bunch of roles in front of me and said, Phil, which one would you like to play for a few years? I don't think I would have picked victim. That don't sound like a lot of fun to me. Why, yes, Phil, everywhere you go, something terrible will happen to you, and you can sit around and just say, oh, look what I'm a victim I am. Thanks. So somewhere along the line, it might be interesting to see the role that we got cast into and sort of understand a little bit and learn to play some other role. Okay. I do not play the role of victim no more. I saw that. I saw the way that Phil played the role of victim because we all do it slightly different. And I said, I've had it with this. I don't want to do this anymore. And there are some other very interesting roles to play. One role I dearly like and hardly ever stop is the role of somebody who's confident. Okay, I like that role. So I just sort of walk around like I got all the confidence in the world. I can handle just about anything. Now that to me is not very much of a victim, is it? Because the victim says, I can handle this. That's basically what victim says, isn't it? This is just too much for me. I can't handle this. So I thought, it might be interesting to play the role of confident person, that no matter what comes up, I can handle it, then I'm not a victim anymore, am I? If I can look at the situation and say there's something I can do, then I'm not a victim anymore. The victim is the one who huddles in the corner and says, this is just too much for me. And that's basically what most of us are doing with our lives, playing the role of victim in various ways. This is just too much for me. I can't handle this. There are a lot of roles that a human being could be playing. But this personality seems to sort of say, there's only one role I know how to play, and that's the only one I'm going to play. And you can fake it for a while that you're playing some other role, but I bet you anything, within a few hours or a few days, you'll be back to whining about how miserable everything is somewhere in your life, okay, again, which is what victims do, isn't it? I talked to few people that were supposedly the victims of some terrible crime, at various times. I've been working with people, and sometimes it's something that happened to them 25 years ago, and they're still whining about it. You watch talk shows, and these people say, "We just don't understand what it's like for us. I mean, you just go over there and you go to jail for a little while, but I didn't live for the rest of my life. It crippled me." What, something that happened for a few minutes 25 years ago? Yo, up. That ain't happening to you now. A dear friend of mine was working with somebody who was abused as a child, okay? And that happens a lot on planet Earth, It's not all that uncommon. Most people are trying to hide it that it happened to, so you just don't know how common it is. And he worked with this lady, I think, for probably something like 10 years, trying to assist her to deal with her terrible experience through childhood. And one day he just about had it. She came and she was whining about how she'd been treated as a kid again, and he said, "I tell you what, you see if you can find a picture of that little girl, okay? See somewhere in your family albums you got one, and we're going to paste it on every milk carton across the country. Have you seen this little girl? And if we find her, we'll take care of her, okay? Otherwise, get over it. Then you can do about it now. It's dead and gone. Get over it. You're going to whine about it for the rest of your life? But that's the part that we play. All these things that happen to me, and all the ways that I try to deal with them, and all the ways that I don't feel confident to deal with various and sundry situations in life, you see. Because I'm playing the role of victim over and over and over again. Let's get over it. Let's see if we can find some roles to play that express you, what you are as a unique individual, okay? You don't have to be consistent, by the way, because let's face it, there's lots of contradictory things about you. You can play one part today and another part tomorrow. I mean, who cares? It annoys folks a little bit if you do it in front of them too often, okay? But you can be a little intelligent about it. But you don't even have to be consistent in your roles. You can play lots of parts in different aspects of the life, you see. I sure don't play the same role when I'm working as I do when I'm out with friends. I mean, everybody knows that to some degree that you shouldn't. But we also know a lot of people who can't keep themselves from doing it. Isn't that right? And it makes working with them a real hell, doesn't it? It's like, grow up, would you? There's a job to be done here. Would you stop doing that weird thing that you do? Just get the job done? We can't help it. We can't stop ourselves from playing this role we're stuck in. And we didn't even pick it, did we? For most of us, it was picked by us, by our family. Picked for us, I mean to say, by our family, wasn't it? We got cast into a role as a little kid, and now we're stuck in it. And it wasn't even something we got to pick. Nobody spread out a bunch of stuff in front of you and said, okay, what part would you like to play here? You just got kind of stuck in it, didn't you? Got a little rewarded for playing that role. Got a little punished if you didn't, and now you're stuck. Technically, the reason for that is a thing called identification. That's the technical word for that around here, okay? The awareness at a certain period of time begins to believe that it is the personality. I am this personality. And we spend much effort trying to make that personality the best personality that could ever be. Isn't that right? Thinking that we're improving ourselves because we actually believe that we are the personality. So anything the personality says to do, I just do it. Today, we would call this being in a very deep hypnotic trance. They didn't have those words when they first started talking about these ideas, okay? But that's what we would call it today. The real part of me, the awareness, is in a deep hypnotic trance, and it does whatever the hypnotist says, and the hypnotist is the personality. The personality says whine, and I say to X, time to whine. Personality says jump, and I say how high. Because I'm hypnotized into believing that I am the personality. Now that's probably about the most powerful suggestion there is, isn't it? What's that?
What is the most powerful suggestion?
That it came from me. With a little bit of effort, I could put you into a trance, and anything I said you would do. You've seen hypnotism, okay? Whatever little suggestion I made, you just do it without even thinking whether you wanted to or anything else. You just do it, okay? That's what hypnotism is. And you can get people into some pretty deep trances that way, can't you? But the one we're in the inside is deeper than anything you have ever seen acted out on a stage. Because that one, it seems that the suggestions come from me. This is my thought. This is my feeling. This is my idea. This is my belief. This is my opinion. These are my hurt feelings. See? So anything the personality says, I just do. Just like somebody on a stage where somebody says, "You're a chicken," and they start clucking. They don't say, "Well, where are my feathers?" Do they? You ever seen somebody in a hypnotic trance say, "Well, where are my feathers then?" They just suddenly start clucking, and I guess they believe they got feathers and the whole thing, you see. That's a trance. And that's the way that we live. So the next little thing that we're going to do is say, can we see that the stuff that the personality tells me, I have no idea what's going on, and I get stuck in a place with a bunch of people who don't know either. They've been through the same thing. They're feeling pretty yucky, and one of the ways that they take care of their victim stuff is to kind of like treat me like shit. Oh, they do not so nice things too. It's not just that, is it? But even if they're the most loving people in the world, it ain't much fun being helpless. But we all come here that way. So it's not surprising that we kind of feel like a victim for the first few years we're here, you know. I want to do things. There are all these people who tell me, no, I can't. Even if they're loving, they have to do that, don't they? Because it's true, I can't. But I don't believe it. Right? When they tell me, no, you can't, they may be doing it for the most loving reasons in the world. But what I experience is being dictated to. And I feel like a victim. So this whole thing called personality gets built around the idea that I'm a helpless victim. Except I'm a little old to be a 5-year-old or 2-year-old kid, okay? I'm not exactly a helpless victim anymore. I'm kind of an adult. I can do just about anything I want. So it's a little inappropriate for me to be playing the role of a 2-year-old victim, isn't it? It just makes me look kind of goofy. But we don't know how to deal with the personality because we think it's me. I got to change me to deal with the personality. I can't just step back from it and say, this is not me. This is just very powerful memories of a dead person who used to be called Phil. Phil when he was 5, Phil when he was 2, Phil when he was 25. But those are all dead people. As I like to say, dead but indecently not buried. My own ancestors haunting me. The ghosts of my past telling me to keep playing that role of victim for the rest of my life, you see. That's not me. It's a dead kid. I'm not that kid anymore. I can do anything I want. I sort of got to watch out for the rest of you because there are things you don't want me to do. Some of the things that I do, I got to sort of hide, okay? Because you're liable to call those people with guns and say, hey, he's doing one of those bad things. So maybe some of the things that I want to do I can't make real obvious, but the fact is I can do anything I want. Okay? So after lunch, we'll sort of look at how this thing called personality gets formed. But as we talk about it, the idea is not to see what's wrong with it and fix it. The idea is to break this trance, to be able to look at it and say, that is not me. Okay? It's weird decisions and experiences that I had some 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. And its purpose is to remind me from moment to moment the ways that I've learned to report to X what I want to do. Because I've gotten a little better at certain things than I was when I was 2, when I first thought up the idea of doing that or saw it done and wanted to do it, you see. That's what it's for, is to be there all the time and say, this is the way you've done it before. And you're more than welcome to experiment with some new things, but here's the way you've done it. That's all it's for. So I don't have to figure it out all over again. How do I tell X I want to do this? So that's why I say it sounds like a contradiction. The only how that I really have to deal with is this reporting. Because we can see that it does occasionally take some effort to find the way to report that's clear, where X really gets what you want to do. Okay? That may take a little bit of time and experimentation, practice as they call it. See. And fortunately we have this thing called memory and personality that remembers how we did it, what we figured out. It tells you, and you do it the way you did it the last time that worked. Okay? That'd work out pretty good if I didn't think I was the personality, wouldn't it? If I just saw it as memory assisting me in this weird job of running the body, which I'm not, I'm pretty used to it now, but when I first got here, I thought it was the weirdest thing I'd ever seen. I'd never experienced anything like this. Pretty strange. Okay? Any questions or comments?
In a world of victims, if one is no longer a victim, isn't it a bit of an odd setup?
A bit of a what?
An odd setup, because I'm so used to
Yeah, I'd
people...
call it kind of odd, yeah. You're so used to what?
Well, it seems like we do things based on experience from a victim mode that get us what we want some of the time.
Yeah, well...
And to totally abandon that is a bit...
I kind of like it, okay? Let's look at it from the other side, okay? Everybody thinks they know how to manipulate me. All they got to do is reward me and threaten me. Works on everybody else, because on a victim that works, threaten them with some terrible calamity in the future and they buy it, don't they? After all, the whole life has been one series of calamities after another from the point of view of a victim. So you can threaten them with some terrible thing and they'll just jump through hoops trying to keep it from happening, okay? You can offer them some tremendously sensual pleasure, wonderful thing that'll get them. And they'll go for it because it'll distract them from the fact that they're a victim for a couple minutes, you see. So it's really easy to manipulate people who think they're victims. You just offer them a reward or a punishment, okay? Threaten them with something.
And that can be very subtle.
Oh, yeah, but it's everywhere you look. It's the way we raise kids. It's in every advertisement you ever see. It's in your job. Everywhere you look. It's all over the planet. We all know this about ourselves. We just don't talk about it too much, you know. But look at it from the other point of view. When you're not a victim anymore, somebody threatens you with something, you say, so? I could deal with that. I might not prefer to, but it would be okay. Might even be interesting, actually.
So you don't go into a panic.
You not only don't go into a panic, but if they try to tell you, I know how to keep it from happening, you say, why? Why would I want to keep it from happening? You can't even be conned anymore. I think you're absolutely free, as a matter of fact, because nobody understands you.
Is that wrong?
If you don't understand me, you can't con me in any way, shape, or form, you see. So it means everything I do is of my own free will. People think they con me all the time. I know it. If I choose to do it, then I do it. And if they want to think they con me into it, that's fine. You should see the looks on their faces when I stop, though. It's very amusing. But I thought I had you. It's like, no, I just wanted to do it then. I don't now. And if I don't want to do it, there's nothing you can do. I'm just not going to do it. You can call me all the names in the world. You can tell me I'm the most cold, heartless, evil creature that ever walked the face of planet Earth. And I'll say, I know. But I'm not going to do it. You can't threaten me with those terrible concepts that everybody else is so afraid of. Okay? You can call me cold and heartless. I don't care. I am kind of cold and heartless sometimes. So what? I also know that there's other times when I'm just about the least cold and heartless person I ever met. So what? See, all those little things we do to con other people ain't going to work anymore when somebody's not playing that role. I don't feel a victim of being cold and heartless, you see. So you can't threaten me with that terrible term.
So as soon as you give it up as a weapon, it can't be used against you.
Well, I think it may be the other way around. As soon as I just decide that I don't want that anymore and just find a way to chuck it, I ain't interested in using it as a weapon on anybody else either. The last thing in the world that I want to do, now that I've discovered that it's not true for this one, is to agree with you that you're a victim. And the honest truth is that there are two occasions when I get cold and heartless, okay? One of them is when I won't agree with somebody that they're a victim. And the other one is when I look at what they're doing and say it's foolish, because I have this bad habit of actually saying it out loud. And people hate being called foolish or stupid. Oh, that bugs them. And they think I'm just so heartless because I look at some silly thing they're doing and I say, that's silly. Okay? Those are the only two times it ever happens. So I know that what they're calling cold and heartless is from the point of view of a victim who's being hurt one more time over really nothing. What, because somebody said, don't hit your head against the wall? It's kind of dumb. Well, that's cold. But I guess if you think you got to hit your head against the wall, you know, having somebody say it's dumb is kind of annoying. Or somebody comes to me and says, oh, this terrible thing happened to me and I'm going to be crippled for life. And I say, oh, come on, get off it. I ain't buying that. Don't you get that a lot? Your friends come to you with some terrible story and they want you to feel sorry for them. Oh, yeah, you're right. Life is so hard for you. Well, see, I kind of look at them and say, grow up. They don't like that too much.
So you don't weep with those who weep?
You better believe it. In fact, I make jokes. That's what I do. See if I can get them to laugh a little bit. Get them out of it, okay? I don't think that I can be a victim anymore. You can point a gun at my head. People have done it. But I'm not a victim.
And if you die, you don't die as a victim.
No, I'm not going to die as a victim. What would that mean? Like what? You mean if they actually shoot me?
Yeah.
No. No. There are no accidents in this world. Not many, anyway. If I'm stupid enough to get into a situation like that and it results in the death of the body, I'm not a victim. I'm just stupid. I don't see accidents like that, okay? Every time I've ever been in a circumstance like that, I can look and see exactly what I did that made this possible. The one time that I was held up at gunpoint that I talked about, it happened because a client had come. We had a business that worked all night, and a client had come to drop off a job, and that time I didn't check to make sure that the person that was playing the role of employee locked the door after they let him in. Most of the time I did that because I know that other people can't remember things all the time. Well, this time I forgot to. Now, how am I a victim of anything but not paying attention? That's my job. So I looked at those two folks and I said, oops, I didn't lock the door. How are we going to get through this, X? I flubbed it. I didn't sit there and weep and say, oh my God, I'm a terrible, helpless victim. I said, what we going to do, X? Because I'm getting through this alive. I ain't going to pay for this silly little moment of inattention by dying. I'm not a victim. I just didn't pay attention for a moment. And I'm not a victim because somebody's pointing a gun at me, okay? Like I said, I became the most peaceful, loving person you'd ever want to meet. And we all got through it just fine. And I pretty much took charge of the situation, okay? Everybody else that was there was all kind of starting to get panicky, and I just made sure that all the people who were there, the client and the employee, calmed down, and I said, look, just do whatever they say. This will be over in a few minutes, and calmed everybody down because I didn't want to die. I'm not a victim, okay? It was not me being victimized. I knew what I could do, and I did it.
Do you think our religion in this part of the world raises victims to the status of sacred with the crucifixion?
No.
No.
I don't think that anybody sees that as victimization.
Is a martyr a victim?
I'd say the way most people play the role it is, yeah. Besides, how do you know he was crucified? It's just a story. You weren't there. I don't know whether he was crucified or not. They were asked. Not important. The story is about an inner thing. Not necessarily about some man getting strung up on a cross, okay? Maybe it happened, maybe it didn't. But it's a teaching story. And what victims do with stuff like that just does not interest me. Yeah, of course, they're going to turn into a bunch of weird stuff. I don't care. I'd like to show a few people how not to be victims, not worry about what victims are doing, okay? Anybody I can help to not play the role of victim anymore, I'll do that. But I'm not out to save the world. I know what they do to people who try to save the world. I don't want to do that. Okay? I don't care. I really don't. Let people do what they want. If that's what people want to do with their lives, let them. You folks found your way here, right? Anybody who wants to find their way to a way out of this little trap that humanity is in, can find it. Because X assists. If you want this, X will get it for you. He'll bring it to you somehow. That's just the way it works. So people who are doing that, that is their choice. I know it. And I don't interfere with other people's choices in life. Okay? I may offer other things, but I never tell anybody they have to. I never try to force them into it. If you say you want to, I may try to trick you into doing it well. But the minute you say I'm not interested anymore, I stop. Because I don't see people as victims, no matter what role they're playing. And whatever their choice is, that's for them. I'm not going to judge it. Okay? I will admit, I think it's kind of a screwy place here. I find it highly amusing. But I can't see people as victims. I just can't do it. So I can't see all these things everybody tells me about how terrible it is. To be honest with you, about the strongest emotion that invokes in me is I kind of look at it and say it's pathetic. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I mean that in the sense that it does arouse a little bit of compassion. But what you going to do? I'm not going to interfere in another living being's choices in life. I think that would be worse. I'll offer something else. That's it. Any other questions or comments? You hungry?
I have one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think it's inspired by this notion of being where this fellow's coming from originally, about being a victim and being kind of not understood or out of the flow, or being not a victim. And the other side of it is it might also give you access to others who are free. That
What might?
taking yourself out of the position of victim, you're free to associate with people or beings that are also free. I mean, you get access to that.
If you can find them. If you can find them, they're sort of busy, you know. We don't exactly have a lot of time to associate. They're kind of busy. You might see them for a couple hours here or there and have a great time and say, bye, I got work to do, how about you? And they say, yep, busy. I don't need to associate with others who are free, particularly. What's wrong with everybody else? I kind of like their company.
The victims that make you squirm.
No, I have to be a little careful because they like to hit me occasionally if I don't agree with them, you know, so I got to be a little careful sometimes. I'll admit that, you know. I got to sort of notice, ooh, this is going to be a tough one. They really want me to agree with it. They're a victim, and I ain't going to do it. I'm not going to help them cripple themselves, okay? Even though I say, as far as I'm concerned, it's everybody's free choice, that doesn't mean I'm going to help. Okay? If I come along to you someday and I see you sawing off one of your legs, I might stop, you know, for a second and say, you don't really have to do that, you know. There's nothing wrong with it. And if you say, but I want to, I'll say, okay, but don't ask me to help. Yeah. I probably won't do that, okay? I maybe won't stop you if you really want to do it. But I may stop by and say, it's not necessary, you know. Okay. But I won't help. That would put me in the position of agreeing with you that you're crippled. I want people to see that they're not. I want them to stand up and be a whole, strong, capable person, confident in what they can do. I don't want to sit and play the mind games that people do on this planet of agreeing with people they're a victim and then offering them a solution and turn them into little dependent slaves. I know that game. I see it all around me, and I don't want to play that. Okay? I don't like that game. Ugh. There's a tremendous tremendous joy, I'll admit, in occasionally running across somebody else who's sort of figured out how not to do this anymore. Okay, there's quite a joy in it. I don't need that joy. There's too much to be done. So you sit, you enjoy it while you can get it, okay? And to be honest with you, most of the time it's happened, I've never seen the person again. We both go our separate ways.
I was thinking about the sort of maybe partial gratification in, say, knowing musicians or being one, or collaborating that way, being an artist, or that's only one part of human activity. But in the way one acknowledges, you know.
But then you got something to do together, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
You got something to do together, don't you? That's not just seeking out the company of others like you so you can enjoy it. It's like, we got something to do here. You know, this particular music that we want to do requires a number of instruments. I can't play them all. So it's not just a bunch of people sitting around masturbating with the pleasure of being amongst others like them. It's a job to get done. That's why I say most of us are kind of busy.
But most of us,
If we could find a way to work together, I suppose that would be one thing, but there's not exactly a lot to go around, so I don't know what's going to happen on this thing. Maybe with musicians there's a couple more of those than there are free people in this world, okay? There ain't many to go around, and there's a lot of territory to cover. So, you know, it just don't work that way. And so what? Okay, you know, there are certain people whose company I really enjoy because we share certain things in common. But I don't know that I want to do what a lot of people do and create artificial elites. I know a lot of musicians who do that. They feel like everybody who's not a musician is kind of like retarded. And they're the elite of the world. A lot of artists are like that. I don't choose to do that. I don't want to live that way. I don't want to be an elite and have to look at everybody else as somehow beneath me. So I'll enjoy it while it's there, because we have some things in common. We can share some experiences that perhaps other people don't know about. There is a real difference in the experience of making music and listening to music that's been made. I know that, because I've done both. And yeah, you can share some things amongst people who do that activity that's real different than, I mean, I talk to people who love music all the time, and they sometimes don't know what the hell I'm talking about, because there's a difference. I know that, and they don't. How can they? But I'm not going to look down on them because they don't know what I'm talking about. They have their experience of it, which is apparently appreciation of it, okay, of the experience. Fine. It doesn't make me better because I have a different experience of it. I can't paint or shit. I can't draw to save my life, okay? Somebody said, draw a picture and save your life. I'd have to let X do it, I'll tell you that much. And that's about the only way you could get me to do it, is if you pointed a gun at my head and said, I'll shoot you if you don't figure out how to draw now. And I just don't have that talent, okay? It wasn't put in this body. It's not a part of me. But I don't feel inferior to people who paint. And I'll be the first one to admit, I have no idea what that experience is like. I know that from the experience with music, the difference between playing and listening. I have no idea. If they're going to talk to me about it, I'll just listen. I don't know. But does that stop me from enjoying what they do? Does that make me inferior to them? No. No way. I don't like setting up things like that where there's an elite and I got to share their company and so on, okay? It's very uncomfortable for me. I see a planet full of free living beings that are pretty tormented because they've sold themselves into slavery. I don't see any elites anywhere. I see a few people who escaped that, their shackles, okay.
Do you believe in elites to be a victim?
I would be going along with the game, that it's about being a victim, isn't it? Yeah, that's exactly right. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to sell the idea that you're all strong, confident, capable people who can deal with just about anything. Okay? Maybe part of dealing with it is getting into some relationship with another aspect of yourself is pretty good at dealing with anything. I know when I tell that story, people think I'm kind of crazy about the folks pointing the gun at me. But as far as I'm concerned, those two people with the guns were not in charge of that experience. I was. As I said, they were in stark... I've never seen such terror in two people's eyes as I did looking into those two guys with guns in their hands. They were terrified. And that told me exactly what to do. So I was the one who's in charge. Their fear didn't let them be in charge. I knew exactly what to do. I know how to deal with people who are afraid. Okay? If I'd been all by myself, the game would have come out a lot different. Okay? But since there were other people there, part of the concern was that nothing else happened. But scared people, I could have gotten them to run away just like that. And the whole thing would have been over, okay? But it's too dangerous when there are other people around and don't know what they're doing. I was the one who was in charge, not them. And I know people don't believe me when I say that, because to them, the person with the gun's in charge. But I think when you got a scared person and a confident person together, I know who's in charge. Okay? Because a scared person can be manipulated. A confident person can't. Ready for lunch? Yes.
If there's time, I have one quick question. So
All right with me?
So this special talent that each person has actually has nothing to do with the personality.
Yes, that's exactly correct.
So
It's part of what you are.
Right.
Many don't.
Right.
But it does influence the personality. It does influence the way the personality gets formed. And if you want to express it, you're going to use some aspects of the personality to do that. Because like I said, you know, just because you have the talent, you still got to figure out some way to get X to get the body to do it. And all of that, it would be kind of nice to remember it from time to time.
Okay.
But you know that some people who have a really strong talent, they really don't know how they do it. Okay, they just don't know. And so a lot of times, that thing that is our unique talent is something that you just sort of do without even realizing you're doing it. Okay? And kind of badly, because it is going through the personality, which kind of tends to turn it into another victim game. So, and also, while he's referring to the fact that a lot of times I tell people that what they are in a way could be expressed as one of X's many, many talents incarnate. That part of the way that X plays this game, X is sort of an infinite thing, and it can take a little aspect of itself and put it in a hunk of meat and let it be unique and alone and sort of cut off for a while and see what it's like to be a living being, okay? And there are some interesting possibilities for that part of X as a consequence. And one of the things is you can actually keep that individuality. When I said destroyed before, that's not exactly true. Really all that happens is that part of X never gains an awareness of itself as an individual, even though it appears to because of the personality. And when the body goes, it just goes back to being X again as though nothing had happened. It doesn't get to keep that individuality that it had as an illusion here. But at any rate, you could say that that thing that is the awareness is one of X's talents, or I mean, that's about the closest we can come to it in language. But the talent is not always what we humans call talent. So the word, I would, if I'm going to use it, I got to kind of like go all the way with it, or you start thinking you have to turn into an artist in order to be yourself, and that's just not so. That's one thing that X can do, is be an artist, what we call being an artist, okay? But many times the talents are very odd little things, just very odd little things, right? They're just different aspects of living. And so there's probably some part of living that just comes very naturally to you. And the rest you kind of have to work at a bit. And then you look at somebody else, and the part that you do just as easy as breathing, they work at, and they're doing something else really easy. You see? And that's kind of what you are, is that little thing that just sort of comes natural to you. So it's not always what we consider to be an artistic skill, okay? I've known, this is one of my favorite illustrations, beauty seems to be real common with X's incarnations here on Earth. So I've seen a lot of people who their talent is involved in just being able to make this game beautiful. And they just sort of like walk into a room and all of a sudden everything is beautiful. A moment ago it was this dreary place. And now it's lovely. And they leave and it goes back to being dreary again, you know. So it's odd things sometimes. It's not always music or painting or writing or these things that we all kind of lust after and wish we could do. It's whatever it is.
A nice example that she described is to have someone under 5 years old come into a room. How commonly that brings that beauty you speak of. There's no maybe closer to that now.
I think that's a load of hooey. Excuse me, I hate to be that nasty about it, but I've seen a lot of 5-year-olds that didn't bring beauty into rooms. I think that is a picture in the mind, and I'm only looking at some aspects of reality to hold it, okay? I don't think every little 5-year-old brings beauty into a room. Some of them are kind of nasty. I see kids do things to each other that are nasty. They're just wild little animals, okay? And there's a lot of really neat things about little kids, too. I don't see any need to paint illusions. I can look at the neat part and look at the nasty part together and see it. And by 5, I would say it's already too late. You really want to see it. Okay, I'm a little younger than that.
Well, I guess that. Infant.
Yeah, I think it's tough to see there personally. I know a lot of people do, but I think they're getting caught up in that emotional protectiveness that is built into these bodies for kids. I mean, we're designed to protect our young just like any other life form on planet Earth, and so kids kind of get us in the gut, okay? They're helpless, and so that we don't squish them the first time they do something really annoying, we have built into us something to kind of want to protect them a little bit, you know, because the fact is they can be real obnoxious, can't they? So I think we get that feeling and we sort of make something mystical out of it. I'm not sure it's there. The one thing you can see in kids that's interesting to see if you want to look for it, I don't know if it's all that stuff, but the one thing that you can see is what it's like for a short period of time not to have inner conflict and turmoil going on. Now that's, I think, fascinating. And to be able to do that with understanding of the world, because they do it just because they don't know any better yet. And they just don't know enough to be in much conflict. They want to scream and yell, they scream and yell. They don't have all this social stuff that says, don't scream and yell. You know, so they just do it freely. Right? It's not always the nicest thing in the world, but they do it freely. I think that's something that we can all see in children very easily when they're real young. It would be nice to live that freely, but with responsibility, which they don't have. They'll do the most irresponsible things absolutely freely, won't they? Just walk up to somebody and go, wow! You walk off. Doesn't seem to bug them at all. I'm not sure I want to do that kind of stuff freely, you know, but I would like, I think it would be interesting to live that freely, don't you? Maybe with a little responsibility, so what I do isn't whop somebody off the side of the head, you know. Anything else? Well, we managed to get to one. You want to start again about 2:30? Will it give you enough time to go eat and relax and digest the food a bit? Okay. Good.